So welcome to TCL Training Bites. Today we're again with Josh Miller to talk about a training topic that's very relevant for all of us, and that is core strength. So Josh, why don't you start us off by telling us actually what the core is? Because I think a lot of us bandy this word around, but actually we don't have a real solid understanding physiologically of what the core actually is made up of.
Well, thanks, Professor Jamie. I appreciate it. When we think about the core, we traditionally think about the abdominal muscles. We all think about the six-pack, but the reality of it is there's more to it. When we think of the abdominal muscles, we want to think of the rectus abdominis, the muscles in front, that washboard. We also think of the muscles on our side, the internal and external obliques. But if we really want to think about it, we want to also now think about the posterior portion. We want to think about the muscles of the lower back. There's a large group running from basically the base of our skull, running all the way down to our sacral, our butt, shall we say. And that's really, really important to make sure that's really strong. But if you think about it, we might incorporate some of the muscles that are in the hips, the hip flexors, because that's also going to help generate some power. We might even see some core, core stability in the latissimus dorsi. So there's a lot of muscles that kind of help keep us strong and keep us straight. And when we think of just exercising, we just don't want to do one exercise to think that we're going to hit the core perfectly.
Yeah. And core has become such a kind of, I don't know, it's like it's been a big topic for the last few years. First of all, coming into the pro ranks and pro guys understanding how important core is becoming. So getting physiologists working with them on core. Some pretty incredible videos I've seen on YouTube with guys like Peter Sagan doing their core training workouts. But why have we sort of come around to core being so important for cycling? I guess a lot of cyclists think that the power really comes from your legs, your quads, your glutes. Why is the core so important for us as riders?
Well, if we watch the tour, especially right now, it's going on. If you watch a rider ride, if you watch their hips are basically staying straight, and all you're seeing is basically the power being up and down on the pedals. But as they get tired, or as we get tired, our normal, the average rider gets tired, we end up seeing people kind of to bounce side to side. So that's definitely going to help to maintain that power generation. We're also going to think about preventing some injuries, because what ends up happening is we actually get into an overuse portion of it. We might feel a little tired in our neck, so we might actually start changing the way we're sitting on the saddle a little bit. It also helps basically just to keep us, straight when we're standing. Because if you think about it, a lot of us are, in this position when we're riding, but what happens when we're off the bike? So by keeping a solid core, it allows us to sit up straight, shoulders back a little bit. We have a little difference to our pelvis. It's tilted a little bit more straight rather than basically anteriorly. So this will all help us basically be able to be standing upright and not hurting ourselves in that sense.
Yeah, I remember, for me personally, when I was early on into my comeback, I started getting back into competition again, sort of in my early 40s. And when I did start racing, one of the things I found was that, I had been doing actually quite some gym work and some even on the bike power work. But when I started racing, I was actually having a lot of lower back pain. And at first I thought, maybe this is my position on the bike. But then when I started to talk to some sports scientists and some coaches, they really did say that is actually a symptom of a weak core. And so how do we sort of detect that as a rider, that maybe we do have an issue with our core or weakness in our core?
Well, think about as we're riding. We're not going to go out tomorrow and ride 6 hours, like a 6-hour stage in the tour. We're going to kind of build up as we progress through our training. And what you want to notice is what's going on with your body. You notice what's going on with how you're sitting in the saddle. Are you sitting too far back? Are you sitting too far forward? Are you adjusting yourself a lot? Do you have to sit up and maybe stretch while you're riding? Or even when you get off in the morning, you wake up in the morning, you get out of bed, are you stiff? Are you, hunched over because of the position you're in? Think about also maybe what's going on with your hips. Are they bothering you? Are you basically finding that your positioning is even different, that you're always just a little bit off? And that's definitely going to be able to give you the signs and symptoms that maybe that your core is a little bit weaker than, let's say, maybe just the position on your bike in that sense.
That's a good point you make, because I was thinking to myself that once I started integrating core training into my work, that it was all about the bike. But what I also then started to find was that I was having less of an issue with my posture and with back pain when sitting at my desk. Because I'm a knowledge worker, I spend a lot of time in front of my computer writing, doing what we're doing right now. So is that also understood that doing this core work does have benefits to other aspects of day-to-day life besides helping you push the pedals a bit harder?
It certainly does. Think about it like you just described. If you're, at the desk 24, not say 24 hours a day, but if you're riding 2-3 hours a day, or, on the weekend, you take a long ride, and then you work Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week at a desk, a lot of times we're going to be sitting like this at our keyboards. Now, when we incorporate the core training, you'll see a little bit more standing upright. Chest is a little bit upright, shoulders are back. It's a more comfortable position. We're not just hunched over, kind of like, dragging, our bike behind us because we had a bad ride. We're actually able to stand upright and basically feel comfortable throughout the entire day in that sense.
And for a typical, well, when I say typical, I mean most of the people who are listening to this Cycling Life are competitively minded masters cyclists. Is there the right number of times per week to be doing your core? For how long should you be doing it? I mean, what we're not going to do in this session is we're not going to sort of get on the floor and demonstrate some of the exercises. We'll send a link with this clip to some good examples of core exercises and techniques. But what would be your kind of ballpark on the number of sessions per week, the duration of those sessions?
I'd probably say a minimum of at least three times per week, just starting out, especially if you haven't done core. Probably, basically maybe every other day, or even maybe do it on your days off when you're not riding, because you want to think about it that it is a muscle, or these are muscles that we are training, and they also do get tired, even though that they might have more type 1 muscle group, type 1 muscle fibers, which are those that are like our endurance. They allow us to go and go and go forever and ever, but they do fatigue in that sense. And that's why we kind of break form while we're riding. So definitely I would say start out with at least, 3 times per week, maybe, 3 to 4 exercises, maybe start out one set, 8 to 12 repetitions, maybe 15. But the big thing when it comes down to it is making sure that you're always doing good form. If you can't hold, let's say, a plank for a minute, start out with small goals. Set it up for a minute, but work maybe up 15 seconds at a clip. Rest, recover, do it for 15 more seconds until you can hold it for the entire time frame. And that's really something like, when you're in the gym, you definitely want to make sure that you always have proper form. And the core musculature is one of those, especially that could potentially affect how you are riding.
Yeah. And any particular differences for, I mean, if I think about, we've talked previously on some of our training bite sessions about gym work and about plyometrics, for example. Would there be, specific kind of core exercises that you might be thinking about more as a more power oriented rider, like maybe like a track sprinter or a pursuiter, TT riders have to hold pretty extreme positions compared to your typical road rider. So is core more important for those kind of riders? Does it vary according to your discipline? What's your thoughts there?
I'm not 100% sure on that answer, but my answer would be definitely core is important for no matter what type of rider we are. Whether we're, a time trialist, whether we're a track cyclist, whether we're, riding the Tour de France, it's going to be the type of rider that definitely needs a strong core. So definitely training core will definitely benefit you no matter what type of rider you are, whether you're, do fondos, whether you're just out for enjoying the weekend ride with your family. I think no matter what, it's definitely going to help you out.
Great. Okay. Professor Josh, thanks a lot for your time. As always, I think this is a terrific summary of pretty much what science has to tell us about core training right now. So if you've liked this video, please do give us the thumbs up. And of course, be sure to subscribe to this Cycling Life YouTube channel. Professor Josh, as always, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jimmy.